Humanity once looked at Mars with wonder. It glowed in the night sky like a silent red jewel, a world untouched by greed, untouched by war, untouched by the endless hunger that consumed Earth. We believed Mars would become our second chance. We promised to build a wiser civilization there. We promised to carry knowledge instead of destruction, peace instead of pride. But history followed us across the stars. At first, the colonies were small. Scientists planted crops beneath glass domes, children laughed in low gravity, and people spoke about unity among all nations. Mars was fragile, but beautiful in its own quiet way. The frozen rivers beneath the soil were treated like sacred veins of life. Every breath of air inside the colonies reminded humanity that survival depended on balance. Yet balance is something humanity has always struggled to protect. As the population grew, corporations arrived. Mining machines tore through ancient mountains, searching for rare minerals. Factories filled the thin atmosphere with poison. Massive reactors melted the ice caps to create water and oxygen faster than nature could recover. Cities expanded endlessly across the red deserts, glowing brighter each year, while the soul of the planet slowly faded into darkness. Greed disguised itself as progress. Leaders argued that sacrifice was necessary for civilization. Forests of engineered algae were destroyed for industrial expansion. Underground oceans became polluted with chemical waste. The skies darkened with storms made stronger by human interference. Mars, once silent and pure, began to fight back against those who abused it. Then came the resource wars. Nations that once spoke of cooperation turned against each other. Water became more valuable than gold. Colonies battled for energy supplies. Weapons shattered habitats and released deadly radiation into the soil. Entire cities vanished beneath clouds of dust and fire. Humanity carried the same anger, the same pride, and the same blindness that had nearly destroyed Earth. And slowly, Mars died. The oxygen systems failed. Crops stopped growing. The storms became impossible to control. Families escaped in overcrowded ships while others were left behind. The dream of a new beginning collapsed beneath the weight of human ambition. The red planet became a graveyard of broken domes, abandoned machines, and forgotten promises. One day, future generations may look toward Mars through distant telescopes and ask what happened there. They will not see the warnings ignored, the greed defended, or the lessons forgotten. They will only see another dead world drifting silently through space. But perhaps the true tragedy is not that humanity destroyed Mars. The true tragedy is that humanity had every chance not to. Humanity saw Mars as a second chance to build a peaceful and wiser civilization after Earth's mistakes. Humanity once looked at Mars as more than just another planet floating in the darkness of space. It represented hope. After centuries of pollution, war, and environmental destruction on Earth, people believed Mars could become a fresh beginning for civilization. Scientists, dreamers, and leaders spoke proudly about creating a society built on wisdom, peace, and cooperation. The first settlers carried this dream in their hearts as they stepped onto the cold red soil. They imagined a future where humanity would finally learn from its mistakes instead of repeating them. In the early years, life on Mars was difficult but inspiring. Colonists worked together to survive, sharing food, water, and knowledge. Every small success felt like proof that humanity could change. Children born on Mars grew up believing they were part of something greater than themselves. People respected the planet because they understood how fragile life was there. The thin atmosphere, frozen ground, and limited resources forced everyone to live carefully and responsibly. For a short time, Mars became a symbol of unity and hope for the entire human race. It showed that humanity still had the power to dream beyond destruction. But sadly, that dream would not survive forever. Rapid industrial growth and corporate greed destroyed Mars's natural balance through mining, pollution, and overuse of resources. As the settlements on Mars expanded, the spirit of survival slowly gave way to the hunger for profit and control. What began as careful, scientific exploration turned into aggressive industrial expansion. Powerful corporations arrived with promises of progress, but their true goal was extraction. They saw Mars not as a fragile world, but as a warehouse of untapped wealth. Massive mining operations dug deep into the planet's crust, pulling out rare minerals essential for advanced technology back on Earth. These operations destabilized the land, causing fractures in the surface and releasing trapped gases that had been sealed for millions of years. At the same time, factories and processing plants began to dominate the colonies. Thick emissions filled enclosed atmospheres, slowly weakening the delicate balance that kept human habitats alive. Waste was often dumped into underground systems, contaminating the limited water reserves that colonies depended on. Instead of learning restraint, companies pushed for faster production and higher profits, ignoring early warning signs from scientists who feared irreversible damage. Even the systems designed to support life were overused. Ice deposits were melted at unsustainable rates, and energy grids were stretched beyond safe limits. In the race for expansion, no one paused to consider the cost. Mars, once a symbol of hope, was being reshaped into a machine of consumption, where survival itself became secondary to greed. Human ambition replaced harmony, causing environmental collapse and deadly changes to the planet's atmosphere and ecosystems. Competition for water, energy, and survival led to violent wars between colonies, repeating the same conflicts that harmed Earth. As human presence deepened on Mars, the fragile balance that once protected the planet began to collapse under the weight of unchecked ambition. The atmosphere, already thin and delicate, was constantly altered by artificial systems designed to make the planet livable. Over time, these systems created instability instead of harmony. Temperature regulators failed to keep up with extreme shifts, and dust storms grew more violent and unpredictable, sweeping across colonies with destructive force. What was once a carefully managed environment slowly turned into a battlefield against nature itself. The expansion of cities also disrupted the planet's natural structure. Underground ice formations, which had remained stable for ages, began to break apart due to excessive drilling and heating processes. This caused sudden water imbalances, flooding some regions while leaving others completely dry. Scientists warned that Mars was reacting to human interference, but their concerns were often ignored in favor of rapid development and expansion goals. Inside the colonies, life became increasingly dependent on artificial support systems. Air, water, and temperature all relied on machines that required constant energy and maintenance. Any small failure created life-threatening conditions, showing how far humanity had pushed beyond natural limits. Instead of adapting to Mars, humans forced Mars to adapt to them, and in doing so, they weakened the very systems that sustained their existence. The harmony that once seemed possible was replaced by instability, fragility, and growing tension across every settlement. As Mars became more populated, the idea of cooperation between colonies slowly collapsed into rivalry and conflict. Different regions, once connected through shared supply networks, began to compete for the planet's most essential resources. Water, oxygen, and energy were no longer treated as shared necessities, but as weapons of control. Smaller colonies struggled to survive as larger. More powerful settlements took command of distribution system. Tensions grew as access to life-supporting materials became uneven and politically controlled. Eventually, disagreements turned into open conflict. Security forces were formed not to protect life, but to secure resources and territory. Communication systems were disrupted, and trade routes were blocked. What began as political tension escalated into full resource wars that spread across multiple regions of Mars. Colonies that once collaborated on scientific advancement now faced each other as enemies. Weapons designed for defense were repurposed for domination. Explosions damaged critical infrastructure, releasing toxic gases and destroying carefully built habitats. Entire communities were forced to abandon their homes as survival became impossible in war-torn zones. In the chaos, trust between human groups completely broke down. Mars became a warning to future generations that without wisdom, responsibility, and unity, humanity can destroy even the worlds it dreams of saving. In the end, Mars became a silent witness to everything humanity failed to understand about itself. What was once a symbol of renewal and possibility turned into a mirror, reflecting the same destructive patterns carried from Earth. As resources disappeared and environments collapsed, The remaining colonies could do little more than attempt survival in scattered, isolated pockets. Communication between settlements became rare, and hope slowly dissolved into routine struggle. The Red Planet, once full of scientific promise and human ambition, was reduced to broken structures, abandoned machinery, and empty habitats drifting in dust-filled silence. Future generations, if they ever arrive, would not find triumph or progress waiting for them. Instead, they would encounter the consequences of decisions made without foresight. They would see how intelligence without responsibility can become dangerous, and how innovation without restraint can lead to collapse. Mars would stand as a permanent reminder that technology alone is not enough to ensure survival.